When I consider everything that grows, holds in perfection but a little moment, that this huge stage presenteth naught but shows whereon the stars in secret influence comment, when I perceive that men as plants increase, cheered and checked, even by the selfsame sky. Did we do this one? Okay, never mind. I just, something struck. Okay. Did we do 16? Okay. Skip 16. Go to 17. Who will believe my verse in time to come, if it were filled with your most high deserts or deserts? Though yet, heaven knows, it is but as a tomb which hides your life and shows not half your parts. If I could write the beauty of your eyes, and in fresh numbers number all your graces, the age to come would say, this poet lies. Such heavenly touches ne'er touched earthly faces. So should my papers, yellowed with their age, be scorned like old men of less truth than tongue, and your true rights be termed a poet's rage, and stretched meter of an antic song. But were some child of yours alive that time, you should live twice, in it and in my rhyme. Okay? What's the overall theme of that poem? Okay, if I wrote about how truly beautiful you are, no one would believe it. No one would believe it when? In the future. The essential theme is time. Time will pass, you will pass. You can live on in my verse. But even if you do live on in my verse, what is he saying? No one will believe it unless they see you. So how do you go on living? Reproduce. Okay? Number 18. One of Shakespeare's most famous sonnets. This poem is anthologized in every anthology of love poetry. Okay? And it's usually anthologized in the context of a man to his beautiful female lover. This isn't to a woman. This is to the golden-haired youth. Okay? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderst in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growst. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Okay? Notice the structure. First quatrain. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Well, why a summer's day?
A good thing to be compared to.
Good thing to be compared to. What else?
Well, the sun, it's bright and golden, makes you think of like that golden hair youth, and like everything's green and alive and young.
Okay.
But it's also hot.
August 3rd, Murfreesboro. Which would you rather be compared to? May 15th? The middle of August. Which is more temperate? May. August, it's hot. Okay? That's what he's doing. Shall I? It's a question. Should I compare you to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. What's it mean, temperate?
You're not like heated up or like.
You're not hot, you're not cold, you're more even-mannered. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Okay? May in England can still be very stormy, and even here it's stormy. So, if I were to compare you to May, May can be blustery, intemperate, going from hot to cold. And summer's lease hath all too short a date. It's lease. Summer doesn't last forever, does it? It comes and goes. Okay? So new quatrain. Sometime too hot the eye of heaven shines, the sun. And often is his gold complexion dimmed. Dimmed how? By the clouds. I mean, you can be in England, you can be in London. Take my Harry Potter course next summer, which I need to remember to tell you guys about. And it can literally be in London, 95 degrees one day and the next day be 70. And cold and rainy. Okay? Often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometimes declines. What does that mean? Every fair from fair. I don't remember if there's a gloss there. Yes, there is. A beautiful thing from beauty. Every beautiful thing from beauty sometimes declines. What does the sometimes mean?
Eventually.
Yes. Even it doesn't mean, oh, well, this beautiful person doesn't decline. They stay beautiful forever. No. It means every beautiful thing declines from beauty. It eventually is ugly. By chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. Chance, something happens. You get chicken pox, your face gets scarred. You get another disease, something happens. Or nature's changing course untrimmed. What does that mean, untrimmed? Reverse it. What does it mean to trim a Christmas tree? You're decorating it. You're making it beautiful. So to be trimmed out means like you're going out on the town. You're getting all dressed up. So nature's changing course untrimmed. What does nature's changing course do to us? It untrims us. It undecks us out. Okay? But there's the turn. Even though Shakespeare isn't writing an Italian sonnet, he does often use that turn at the end of line 8. But thy eternal summer shall not fade. He's just like, for those of you who have read, can't remember the author, Ode on a Grecian Urn. Keats or Shelley? Keats, thank you. Hate it when that happens. What is the import of the Ode on a Grecian Urn? What is Keats saying in that poem? Okay. The individuals described on the urn will be what? How? Exactly as they are on the urn. The youthful swain will forever be in almost reach of the beautiful maiden. And she will always be trying to flee, but she'll never be able to. Okay? The cow will always be led to the sacrifice. It will never be sacrificed. Okay? And that's where, get into the poem, beauty is truth, truth, beauty. That's all you ever need to know, etc. Thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest. This poem is the Grecian urn for the golden-haired youth. Because the beauty the golden-haired youth has will remain forever. Nor shall death brag, thou wanderest in his shade. The valley of the shadow of death. Okay? When in eternal lines to time thou growest. Notice the wonderful ambiguity of eternal lines. What does it refer to?
Well, to me, it seems he's referring to this here poem.
This here poem, as Paul said, and what happens as you age? The wrinkles of time. He's referring to both. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this. And this poem gives life to thee. So notice, what is required for the poem to give life to the golden-haired youth? As long as men live, and they can see. Okay? You can almost turn from that poem to Psalm 116. Let me not to the marriage of true minds admit impediments. Because what does he do? The final couplet of that. The same kind of thing. Okay? We'll talk about that when we get to it. We won't get to it today.
From anyone else but Shakespeare, this would just be enormous hubris.
So why isn't it hubris from Shakespeare?
Because he's right. Because we're still reading this 400 years later. I mean, anyone else writes this, you're going to live forever because I wrote you this awesome poem. Yeah, whatever.
That's not, by the way, unique to Shakespeare. That is, Sir Philip Sidney, in his sonnet sequence Astrophel and Stella, did the same thing for the Stella of the poems. Said, you will live forever in these poems. One of the big changes, however, between Shakespeare and Sidney is Sidney's speaker in the poems makes it very clear. If you don't give me what I want, then you will live forever how? In not a nice light, in infamy. But give me what I want, and everyone will sing your praises. Now, Shakespeare does have some poems in here that kind of say, people are going to remember you not nicely. But the vast majority of them are not that way. Look at number 19. Okay? Number 18 is also largely about time. Time will undo you, but this poem will preserve you. Devouring time, number 19, blunt thou the lion's paws, and make the earth devour her own sweet brood. Pluck the keen teeth from the fierce tiger's jaws, and burn the long-lived phoenix in her blood. Notice, he's addressing time. Do these things. Make glad and sorry seasons as thou fleetst. Do whate'er thou wilt, swift-footed time. To the wide world and all her fading sweets, but I forbid thee one most heinous crime. In other words, in addressing time in the first two quatrains, what's he telling time to do? To do what time will normally do. Time will naturally blunt thou the lion's paws. Because what happens to the lion? It dies. The tiger's teeth fall out. Okay? The long-lived phoenix is burned in her blood. And then what does she do? Poof! The little baby phoenix, squawking, grows for 500 years. Poof! Burns into flame. Does it again and again. But he says, one thing I charge you not to do. Carve not with thy hours my love's fair brow. Notice that sentence. All single syllables. Carve not with thy hours my love's fair brow. He's emphasizing that. Nor draw no lines there with thine antic pen. Or antique pen, depending upon your pronunciation and how you want the line to scan. Him, notice he makes it clear who the lover is. Him in thy course untainted to allow. In thy course. What's the course of time? Okay? The circle of time. Don't go all Lion King-y on me, okay? For beauty's pattern to succeeding men. That is, allow him to complete his course. Untainted, untouched by time. Why? So that he can be a pattern to be emulated by future men. Yet. Why yet? It's almost like between the third quatrain and the final couplet. The speaker says, no, go ahead. Yet, do thy worst, old time. Why does he call time old? Okay, I mean, there's a literal reason. It's been around since the beginning of time. Why else?
Because time makes things old.
Okay,
You're referring to the idea of father time and
possibly.
I think he's taunting.
He is taunting. Come on. Old man. It's like my son to me. Come on. Okay? That's one thing. But he's also playing on this Renaissance notion that the world was old and running out of time. Okay? That the end was coming soon. And I don't necessarily mean that, Christian Judgment Day and anything. I just mean the sun was old and running out of juice. Yet do thy worst, old time, despite thy wrong. That is, you're wrong in what you're going to do to my love. My love shall in my verse ever live young. Go ahead. Take your shots. Why? You can't stop my poems. You can't stop my verse from living. So whatever you do to him doesn't matter. Then we get number 20. Okay? And if you need a poem, or if you need a sonnet to show that the love that is being talked about between the speaker and the golden-haired youth is not a homoerotic love affair, to me, this one pretty much proves it. Now, to some people, it doesn't. I don't see how, but we'll talk about it. A woman's face with nature's own hand painted hast thou, the master mistress of my passion. A woman's face hast thou, with nature's own hand painted. Notice how I turned around the syntax. So that you have a woman's face hast thou. What does that mean? Is this guy androgynous? Can you not tell by looking at the golden-haired youth whether he's a man or a woman? He's pretty. Okay? It doesn't mean he looks like some swimsuit model. It means when anybody looks at this guy, man or woman, goes, wow. Men probably go, it's not fair. And women just go, just drool. A woman's gentle heart, but not acquainted with shifting change, as is false women's fashion. So he has a heart like a woman, like how? gentle. It's not like a woman's how. It's not shifting. And then you can argue how to read as is false women's fashion. Is he saying all women are false? Or is it the fashion only of false women to have hearts that change?
I'll go with that one.
It's beautifully ambiguous. If you want to be, a chauvinist, you can say, yeah, all women have false hearts, They're never true to you. Therefore, men, don't be true to them. Okay? There's a whole commonplace idea in the Renaissance. So, you have what else? An eye more bright than theirs, less false in rolling. What's meant by a rolling eye? We wouldn't use the term rolling today.
Either means like looking at other people.
We would use the term roving. A roving eye. Okay? So his eye is more bright than theirs, but less false in rolling. Well, what does that mean, more bright?
Like, kind of has a spark to it. Like a mind behind it.
Has a spark to it. Okay?
Because you could
Which
play on you being more wise than a woman. Maybe.
possibly
Wit.
in the Middle Ages and in the early part of the Renaissance, there was this notion that the way we see is our eyes shoot out beams of light.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Therefore, it was dangerous to stare at someone, especially if that other person stares back at you. Because what could happen?
You could explode.
No. Now you couldn't put your eye out. It's dangerous to shoot your eye out. No, it's not, the Christmas story. What could happen to your eye beams?
You get crossed.
They get crossed or they intertwine. That's why in the Renaissance, a woman's gaze could be deadly. Not deadly in that it would kill you. Deadly in that you could fall in love because of it. Because your eye beams entwine and you engage in essentially eye sex.
Okay.
And eye sex could lead to
Eye babies.
real sex. Well, it can lead to eye babies in this sense. If you read some of John Donne's poetry, John Donne says in trying to remember which poem, he says, thine eye in mine, mine in thine appears. Well, if you come up closely to someone and you look deeply into their eyes, what do you see? You see your reflection. That was one way of propagating ourselves, he then says. That's a way of reproduction. To see yourself in the other's eyes, etc. Okay? So, an eye more bright than theirs, less fall in rolling, doing what? Gilding the object whereupon it gazeth. Okay? Now, if you take that medieval theory of sight, that your eye shoots forth a beam of light, yes, that would then gild. It would make it yellow. It would cover it with gold. How else can it mean, though? Beauty is where? In the eye of the beholder. That means the beholder views someone and beautifies them. Whereas everybody else may go, oh, man, sorry, but he or she is ugly. Not to the eye of the beholder. Like titanium bottom. Okay? A man in hue, all hues in his controlling. Now, some people have said a man in hue. That's a clue. This person is named hue.
Oh.
We just pretend it's you.
Okay?
It's a lot easier. I mean, if you want to find that.
Yep. So you could go and, try and search, did Shakespeare know anybody named? Okay. A man in hue, all hues in his controlling. What does that mean, all hues in his controlling? It's like I said the other day. Tom Hiddleston walks in this room,
Yep.
all hues.
Exactly.
Hues is the expression on your face, or even just your face. This guy has such amazing looks. Everybody is impacted by him. Which steals men's eyes and women's souls amazeth. In other words, men look at him kind of jealously, and women look at him and their souls are amazed. They're like, period. Okay? Turn. And for a woman wert thou first created. Now, that's ambiguous. For a woman, does that mean you were created to be with a woman, or you were created to be a woman? Okay? For a woman wert thou first created, until nature, as she wrought thee, fell a doting. Okay, notice, the individual is created by nature herself, the goddess nature. And nature falls a doting. She's so in love with this creation of hers. And by addition, me of thee defeated. She added something to you that defeated me. By adding one thing to my purpose, nothing. That is, by adding something to you, she created nothing of my purpose. That is, my purpose for you is now nil, non-existent, because she added something to you. Or, that word, nothing. In Shakespeare's day, it's pronounced noting. As in, I note something, okay? And by addition, me of thee defeated, by adding one thing to my purpose, nothing. Noting. Well, what is nothing? How do we represent nothing?
Just
How do you represent it numerically?
0.
Okay? Here's another meaning. What if his purpose is in the individual nature created before nature added, a couple of you are starting to get this, before nature added something, his purpose was the nothing before the addition of something. Not Shakespeare. What does Freud say all women have, as an example?
Envy.
Penis envy. Why? Because they don't have one. One addition of me defeated. But since she, and then Shakespeare makes his point clear. But since she pricked thee out for women's pleasure, by addition me of thee defeating, mine be thy love, and thy love's use, their treasure. What is the speaker saying he wants of the golden-haired youth?
Love.
I want your love. Notice what love is not equated to, which it appears to be, I would argue, almost entirely by 20th century literary critics and English professors. Love does not equal sex. Okay? It does not equal sex. Love is a spiritual aspect, let's say, or an emotional connection, if you want to use that term. It doesn't necessarily correlate to sex. That's why he says, mine be thy love and thy love's use. Well, honey, if you really loved me, that's love's use. You would sleep with me. That's how you prove, so to speak. Okay? Seems to me this one poem just shoots apart the whole idea of a homoerotic love affair. He is saying, I don't want to sleep with you. What's he want? I want your friendship. I want your soul. I want your heart. I want your mind. Let them have your body. Because he's been saying for the first 19 sonnets what? Go! Have babies! Okay? He's not just saying go have sex. It's go have babies. Okay? We're going to skip 23. Trying to decide 24. Yeah, we'll do 24 kind of quickly. Mine eye hath played the painter, and hath stelled thy beauty's form in table of my heart. Stelled means, it's probably from this, a stela, which is a statue, okay, a piece of rock or stone or metal that is inscribed upon. And so he's saying, mine eye hath played the painter, and hath stelled, hath inscribed thy beauty's form in the table of my heart. My body is the frame wherein 'tis held. That is, my body is the frame that holds the heart. And perspective, it is best painter's art. Okay? Perspective is the best art of the painter. That is, getting things proper proportion, you know. This is not an example of good perspective. In other words, okay, that's kind of wrong in many ways. So, for through the painter must you see his skill to find where your true image pictured lies. Now, Shakespeare probably, based on this poem, would not have appreciated a Marc Chagall or a Pablo Picasso or pretty much any other 20th century portraitist. To find where your true image pictured lies, which in my bosom shop is hanging still. So there's a portrait of the beloved lying or hanging in his heart, that hath his windows glazed with thine eyes. Now, what does that mean? Glazed with thine eyes. What is glazing on a window?
Glass.
Is it the glass?
I thought it was.
In Shakespeare's day, you wouldn't have, a great big huge pane like that. You'd have many panes. Okay? This is the glazing. It's the lead that keeps the window in its place, that borders the window. Notice the language of bordering that he's using. I keep your image tabled in my heart. My heart or my body is the frame. And then he says, where your true image pictured lies, which in my bosom shop is hanging still, that hath his windows glazed with thine eyes. The beloved's eyes are the things keeping the glass in place. Now see what good turns eyes for eyes have done. Eyes for eyes or eyes for eyes, me, have done. I lost my place. Mine eyes have drawn thy shape, and thine, that is your eyes, for me are windows to my breast. Okay, now he's saying, so your eyes, I look into your eyes, and they are windows to my breast. How so? What does he keep in his breast? The shape, the image of the beloved. Wherethrough the sun delights to peep, to gaze thereon on thee, or therein on thee. Yet eyes this cunning want to grace their heart. That is, this cunning wants eyes to grace their art. They draw but what they see, no, not the heart. That is, my eyes draw in my breast what they see. Well, what do they see? The physical person. What do they not see? They don't see the person's heart. What has this poem just introduced to the sonnet sequence for the first time? Doubt. There's a little element of doubt there. He's saying, you know, I don't really see into your heart. I don't really know what's going on there. Even though Sonnet 20 talked about, the beloved's heart as not being like false women's fashion, changing. Here, the speaker seems to say, I see your face, but I don't know what's inside. Look at 25 now. Let those who are in favor with their stars of public honor and proud titles boast. In favor with their stars. He's playing on the whole astrological notion here. Whose stars favor them. Now, how have their stars favored them? With public honor and proud titles. Whilst I, whom fortune of such triumph bars. So, those out there versus me. Someone else is being favored by their stars and is receiving public honors and proud titles, while I am barred. I'm kept from those things. And I unlooked for joy in that I honor most. That is, he's saying, I take joy in what? In what I honor most. Well, on the basis of the previous 24 sonnets, what is it the speaker honors most? The beloved, the golden-haired youth. Great princes' favorites, their fair leaves spread, but as the marigold at the sun's eye. Now, you can read that sexually if you want, but I don't think it's necessarily intended. But what does it mean? Great princes' favorites, their fair leaves spread.
Like the flowers bloom for these guys.
The flower blooms for the sun. It opens up for the sun. So, the favorites open themselves up for their great princes. And in themselves their pride lies buried. For at a frown they in their glory die. That is, the favorites bury their pride, because what happens if the great prince suddenly frowns rather than smiles? What happens if the sun is eclipsed? The flower shrivels up and dies. New image, new quatrain. The painful warrior, notice Shakespeare's verbiage here, famoused, he's turned a noun into a verb. Famous, or an adjective, into a verb. Famoused for fight, after 1,000 victories, once foiled. He's had 1,000 victories, and then loses the 1,001st. What happens? Is from the book of honor razed quite, that is, erased, and all the rest forgot for which he toiled. It's almost like a politician, you know, a politician who serves a long life, does wonderful things, and then gets caught in a scandal. What happens for all the good things? Nixon. Depending on your political perspective of Nixon. Nixon, goes to China, ends Vietnam, etc., has the little problem with G. Gordon Liddy breaking into Watergate, okay, etc. Then happy I, that love and am beloved, where I may not remove, nor be removed. How may he not remove, nor be removed? Where is the speaker not?
In the fickle public eye.
In the fickle public eye. So where is he? In the beloved's heart. Okay? He is saying, I'm not where I can easily be slain. Not slain literally. 24, 25, 26 are all on a similar theme of the relation of the speaker to the beloved. 24, this element of doubt. 25, there's assurance. 26, Lord of my love. So what relation is the speaker to the beloved? Look at the last word of the line. Vassal. To whom in vassalage thy merit hath my duty strongly knit. Your merit has knit my duty to you. To thee I send this written embassage, to witness duty, not to show my wit. That is, I'm sending this letter to you to show my duty to you, not to prove my wit. Why does the speaker have to send a message? Because there's been some kind of distance, some kind of separation between them. Duty so great, that is the duty I'm showing to you, duty so great, which wit so poor as mine may make seem bare. That is, my wit, because it is poor, may make my duty seem bare. That is, seem empty. In wanting words to show it. That is, I can't express it. But that I hope some good conceit of thine in thy soul's thought, all naked, will bestow it. What are we back to? We're back to Duke Theseus saying to Hippolyta, what about the rude mechanicals play? If we take it as sincere, then there can be nothing wrong with it. In other words, it all becomes incumbent upon the receiver to receive it with honor, no matter how poorly it is expressed. That's what the speaker is saying. He's saying, I hope some good conceit of yours. What does he mean by conceit? Not conceit like conceited.
Comparison.
Okay? It's not that kind of conceit, not like a metaphysical conceit. Here it just means thought. Some good thought of yours in thy soul's thought, all naked. That is your soul, unburdened, your soul bare, will do what? Will bestow a good thought to my embassage, my letter. Till whatsoever star that guides my moving points on me graciously with fair aspect. Notice what he's blaming his current situation on. It's the stars. It's the favor that I'm receiving. What else could the stars be? The beloved. Points on me graciously with fair aspect, and puts apparel on my tattered loving, to show me worthy of thy sweet respect. So even if the suggestion is that somehow the beloved is not showing favor to the speaker, it's not the beloved's fault. Whose fault is it? It's the stars. He doesn't want to say anything negative about the beloved. Then when? When the stars point me to where I can go towards you, then may I dare to boast how I do love thee. Till then, not show my head where thou mayst prove me. Okay? Then, on the basis of what I said in the previous, 12 lines, may I dare to boast how I do love thee. That's what the embassage is. That's what the import of the poem is. I love you. Till then, till when? Till my star shines upon me, I will not show my head where thou mayst prove me. In other words, until then, we are kept separate. Until then, I'm not going to come into your presence. There's doubt. Something has happened. We don't know what. Okay? Go to 27. In 27, we start to see a change of more, for lack of a better term, depression, let's say, entering in. Okay? Where the speaker is dwelling more on the separation. Weary with toil, I haste me to my bed, the dear repose for limbs with travel tired. But then begins a journey in my head to work my mind when body's works expired. For those of you who have ever suffered insomnia, that's just a fantastic quatrain. When your body is just dog tired and you lay down and what happens? Your brain starts going 1,000 miles a minute. And you are physically exhausted, but you can't sleep. That's what he's talking about. For then my thoughts from far where I abide, that is, the thing I'm thinking about, is not where I currently am. Intend a zealous pilgrimage to thee, zealous, full of devotion, full of love, and keep my drooping eyelids open wide, looking on darkness which the blind do see. But the speaker isn't blind, but he's looking on darkness like he's blind. Why? Because he's not in the presence of the beloved. Save that my soul's imaginary sight presents thy shadow to my sightless view. What does he see? The image of the beloved in front of him, which, like a jewel hung in ghastly night, makes black night beauteous and her old face new. Black night's old face. Lo, thus by By day my limbs, by night my mind. For thee and for myself, no quiet find. Okay? So by day, I find no quiet of thee, no peace. Why? Because they're separated. And by night, I still have no peace. Why? Because we're still separated. And by night, I can't even sleep and put you out of my mind. 29. Well, look at, for just a moment, it's not on the reading. 28, just look at the first two lines. How can I then return in happy plight that am debarred the benefit of rest? He's playing on the same notion. So now 29. When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweet my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate. What's he saying in that opening quatrain?
When my life sucks.
Okay. I can always trust Paul to really, distill it down to the essence.
My notes are pithy.
His notes are pithy. When in disgrace with fortune, put that another way. When I'm unfortunate. See, we use words today that we don't really think about the real meaning of them. You get in a car wreck. Oh, well, that was unfortunate. No, it was an accident. Because when you say that's unfortunate, what you are really saying was that fortune did not smile upon you. Does that mean when you actually reach your destination? Oh, well, that was fortunate. You made it to class alive.
I find it fortunate.
Okay, yeah. So, when he's in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes, well, what has the speaker done to be disgraced? Interesting question. So, I sit by myself and I beweep my outcast state, and I trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries. Notice how he's described heaven. God has turned a deaf ear, and his cries are what? Bootless. Does that mean he's not wearing boots? What's bootless mean?
Meaningless.
Not meaningless.
Useless.
Is it useless? Is that what your gloss says? Better not be. Idiot. It doesn't mean useless. It means remediless. His cries are not receiving a remedy. Like a prayer is a petition. He's not receiving redress of his petitions. Okay? And I look upon myself and I curse my fate, wishing me like to one more rich in hope. One more rich in hope. What does that mean? How much hope does this speaker have? None. One more rich in hope is one with some hope. He doesn't have any. Featured like him with friends possessed. The two hymns there are not necessarily the same individual. He might be saying, featured like a him, that is, looking like him, handsome, or like B, somebody with lots of friends, or desiring C, this man's art, and D, that man's scope, his reach. The speaker's saying, I'm like none of these guys. Paul had it right. My life sucks. It's really bad. With what I most enjoy, contented least. Line 9. Yet, in these thoughts, myself almost despising. Not despairing yet. Haply, I think on thee. He's thinking how horrible his life is. And then he says, haply. It doesn't mean happily. What does happily mean?
By chance.
By chance, by happenstance. I think on thee, and then my state like to the lark at break of day arising. From sullen earth sings hymns at heaven's gate. So much for the bootless cries. So much for heaven being deaf. Because what has happened? Have his prayers been answered? He no longer thinks his life sucks. For thy sweet love remembered such wealth brings. It's not the wealth that is remembered. It's your sweet love brings such wealth that then I scorn to change my state with kings. What are the particular circumstances of the speaker's life, however, still? He is an outcast of fortune in men's eyes. Again, if you want to read this biographically, boy, it'd be really cool to know what was going on in Shakespeare's life at this particular moment. Is this when the playhouses are closed? Is this, when one child dies in 1597?
Wasn't that Hamlet?
Hamnet.
Hamnet.
Okay. We don't know. But we don't know. That's the problem, is we know so little, even notwithstanding Michael Wood's book, we still know so little about the individual particulars of Shakespeare's life. What would be absolutely fantastic if, somebody's rummaging around some old manor house somewhere and they discover Shakespeare's diary, written in Shakespeare's own handwriting. And we find out who the golden-haired youth is, and we find out who the dark lady is. Okay? Now look at number 30. This is just my opinion. One of the most beautiful of all of the sonnets. I mean, just the sound of it is glorious. When to the sessions of sweet, silent thought, I summon up remembrance of things past. Marcel Proust took the title of his unreadable, massive book there. I sigh the lack of many a thing I sought, and with old woes new wail my dear time's waste. Then can I drown an eye unused to flow, for precious friends hid in death's dateless night, and weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe, and moan the expense of many a vanished sight. Then can I grieve at grievances forgone, and heavily from woe to woe tell o'er the sad account of fore bemoaned moan, which I knew pay as if not paid before. But if the while I think on thee, dear friend, the losses are restored and sorrows end. Now, take that apart. When to the sessions of sweet, silent thought. What's he talking about? What are the sessions of sweet, silent thought? What does he mean by session, first of all?
When he has occasion to be by himself and think to himself without exterior influence or interruption.
Exactly. Okay?
Shakespeare's me time.
Shakespeare's me time. So it's sweet, silent thought. What do you think about? It's rhetorical. What do you think about when you are off by yourself and you are seriously, consciously thinking / meditating about life? Okay? That's what he's talking about. The sessions, your footnote tells you, he's playing upon the metaphor of a court of law. Yes, but he's also using the Latin form sessions, because it's based on the Latin word, okay? But what it means in an English context, sitting. Just sitting and thinking. When to the sessions of sweet silent thought, I summon up remembrance of things past. This is what he's thinking of. Remembrance of things past. Not his current life. Past events. So what does he do? I sigh the lack of many a thing I sought. That is, and this is where it really gets fun, to look at the tenses. I sigh, present tense, the lack of many a thing I sought, past tense. I sigh now, the lack of many a thing I sought. The lack when? The lack back then when I sought them and never achieved them, or the lack now of the things I sought then? Again, not clear whether or not he achieved or had the things he sought. And with old woes, new wail. And this, I think, is the kicker. My dear time's waste. With old woes, I new wail. New. Now I bewail. What? The old things. The things I never achieved. The things I never did. My dear time's waste. What is the waste of time? Past or now? Is he now wasting time bewailing the things of the past? It's unclear. This is why I think Shakespeare's sonnets, they deserve an entire semester just to themselves. Because he is just genius in his ambiguity. We could spend an entire class period just unpacking this one sonnet. It is so wonderful. Then can I drown an eye unused to flow. Then when? When to the sessions of sweet silent thought. He's saying, when I have these periods and I remember these things of the past and I bewail, then can I drown an eye unused to flow. Then the tears flow that normally do not. Well, why are the tears flowing? For precious friends hid in death's dateless night. Then he cries over the death of friends hidden in death's dateless night. Why is it dateless? Because there's no time in death. Okay? And weep afresh love's long since canceled woe. What does that mean? Any of you familiar with the Willie Nelson song? I hate it when that happens. The Willie Nelson song. To all the women I've loved before. What is he talking about? Weep afresh, love's long since canceled woe. Is he talking about all the dead lovers?
When you break ties with someone.
Or all the loves that you've broken up? Weep afresh. Have you ever thought about past loves and thought about them in the present tense? I woulda, shoulda, wished I hadda. And moan the expense of many a vanished sight. What's he mean? The expense of many a vanished sight. Don't you metaphorically have to pay something for every sight you have? Metaphorically, yes, you do. Because what must you do? You must go somewhere, or you must do something in order to have that sight. Even if it's hopping in the car and going over to your boyfriend or girlfriend's. That's an expense of sorts. It's an expense of what? Your time.
What economists call opportunity cost.
Okay? It's an opportunity cost. That's part of the overhead cost of your life. What have you done in that expensive time? You've taken time that could have been what? Used otherwise. Then can I grieve at grievances foregone. I can grieve when? Now, in the present tense. I can grieve at grievances, what? Long gone. Have you ever just sat and thought about how you've lived your life and what a stupid ass you were? That lost friendships because of things you've done, not things they've done, things you've done. Maybe you're all better than I am. Okay? That's what he's talking about. And grievances foregone. They're done and over grievances. They can't be brought back and solved. And heavily from woe to woe tell over. Tell, two meanings. Tell, to literally tell over, and tell, like a bank teller, to count over. Like he's taking stock of his life, and he's opening up the ledger books. And one side is just filled. The sad account, telling, counting, of four bemoaned moan. Four, it means both before, and it kind of means also useless. All the stupid things that didn't have to occur. Four bemoaned moan, which I knew pay as if not paid before. This is an individual suffering from regret-itis. But if the while I think on thee, dear friend, all losses are restored and sorrows end. All losses. So this friend means what? Everything. You can cancel out all of my problems. Okay. Does that really work? For those of you who are married, or thinking about getting married, or hope to maybe get married. Well, let me address those of you who are married first. Does the individual you're married to cancel out all your woes? Do they solve all your problems? Do they bring total joy, peace, and happiness to your life? No.
You're not here to you.
No. Does anybody do that? No. If you're seeking personal peace and happiness from another individual, hate to pop your balloon, you are going to get totally and completely screwed. And your life will suck.
You
Why? Because none of
gotta
us
do-
is
gotta do the work yourself.
perfect. None of us, to borrow a very famous line from Jerry Maguire, completes the other person. Not perfectly. Because when you get married, you don't suddenly become without fault. I take that back. Maybe you do. I sure don't. And my wife, if I could, she'd go, listen to him. He's telling the truth. So, all losses are restored. What is the speaker setting the speaker up for? Sorrow. Failure. Okay? Turn from there to no, let's skip 34. I'm trying to. Sheesh, 10 minutes left. Oh, we are so far behind. Skip 34, skip 35. Yeah, we need to do 36, though. Let me confess that we two must be twain. Okay, let me admit, yeah, we've got to be separate. Although our undivided loves are one. Although, what does that opening first two lines kind of imply? Maybe they're not so undivided. So shall those blots that do with me remain without thy help, by me be borne alone. That is, my sins, my problems will be my sins, my problems. They won't be attributed to you. In our two loves, there is but one respect, though in our lives a separable spite. There is but one respect, what does he mean? Of each other. Though our two lives are separable, which, the spite that separates us, though it alter not love's sole effect, what does that mean? The result of love. Yet doth it steal sweet hours from love's delight. That is, this separation causes us to be apart. That's love's delight. I may not evermore acknowledge thee. What does that mean? I think he's saying, I cannot publicly acknowledge you. So when somebody comes into the room and they mention your name, I can't kind of let people on that I know you, lest my bewailed guilt should do thee shame. My bewailed guilt. There is some guilt attached to the speaker, that if I then acknowledge that I know you, my guilt will get attached to you. Nor thou with public kindness honor me, unless thou take that honor from thy name. So the impression is, the speaker, as we heard in the one previous sonnet, the speaker is outcast and there's something going on with who the speaker is. Do not so. I love thee in such sort as thou being mine, mine is thy good report. I love you so much that as long as your name is clear and is respected by the community, then for my sake, your good name will bring good respect to me in the speaker's mind, not publicly. Okay? So see how, the beloved is somehow up here in individual's eye, in the community's eye. And the speaker is down here. Right? Possibly implying that there's also a class difference between them. That's the way most people read it. Okay? Go to 40. And we see this difference or division growing. Take all my loves, my love, yea, take them all. What hast thou then more than thou hadst before? It's almost like the speaker is saying to the beloved that the speaker is implying that the beloved is saying, I'm done, I'm through. No, take all my love, go ahead. It's not like you haven't had them all already. No love, my love, that thou mayst true love call. All mine was thine before thou hadst this more. You really can't take all my loves because you have them all already. Then if for my love thou my love receivest, and some critics read that my love as being the dark lady. No, take all my love. You have, no, take hers too. Okay. If for my love thou my love receivest, I cannot blame thee for my love, okay, possibly my girlfriend, thou usest. But yet be blamed if thou this self deceivest by willful taste of what thyself refusest. I do forgive thy robbery, gentle thief. Although thou steal thee all my poverty, you take from me the thing I'm poorest in. And yet love knows it is a greater grief to bear love's wrong than hate's known injury. It's a greater hardship to bear love's wrong. When someone you love is wrong to you, than to bear hate's known injury. If Paul hated me, in other words, it would be easy to take his injury to me than if I knew Paul loved me and he did something wrong. What's worse, an enemy hurting you or a friend stabbing you in the back? Okay? Lascivious grace, in whom all ill well shows, kill me with spites. Yet we must not be foes. What's that final clause begging for? Let's be friends still. We can't be foes. Okay? Yeah, 41 we've got to do. Because 42 we have to do, and 43 we have to do. We're probably just going to end up dropping a play. I don't know what yet. Those petty wrongs that liberty commits when I am sometime absent from thy heart, thy beauty and thy years full well befits, for still temptation follows where thou art. In other words, I understand that when you're away from me, you commit liberties. Why? Because temptation follows you. Gentle thou art, meaning noble, and therefore to be won. People desire you. Beauteous thou art, therefore you will be assailed. And when a woman woos, what woman's son will sourly leave her till he have prevailed? When a woman woos. He's not talking about being wooed by men. Me. But yet thou mightst my seat forbear, and chide thy beauty and thy straying youth. Thou mightst what? My seat. What does he mean by my seat? If this is my seat, what do I usually do with it?
Sit in it.
Or it's another phrase. Occupy it. What has the other person done with his seat? You took my seat away. Is he talking about a literal seat? Please say no. No, he's not. He's talking about you've occupied something else of mine. And chide thy beauty and thy straying youth, who led thee or lead thee in the right, even there where thou art forced to break a twofold truth. Hers, by thy beauty tempting her to thee. You broke her truth, and thine, by thy beauty, being false to me. What's happened? He, the golden-haired youth, occupied the speaker's seat. What was that? Her. You took my place in her. Probably literally as well as figuratively. The plot thickens. We have now the dark lady, the golden-haired youth, and the speaker. And the golden-haired youth and the dark lady have, to use modern parlance, hooked up. And he's not so happy about it. Okay? We'll stop there. I don't know how we'll do it, but we'll try to get these done.